right now, the breaking news. President Mahama, per the dictate of Article 78, Clause 1, has submitted some names to Parliament in relation to fresh appointments to 2 portfolios and then a reshuffle of some ministers as well. Not a great list, but a list nonetheless in terms of, when I say great, I mean the numbers, right? But amongst many other things, the majority leader in Parliament is headed for a ministerial position under this present administration. I'm going to take you to the board right now and bring you details as to the statement that's just been released by the Minister for Government Communications, Felix Kwakye-Fosu, who has been providing a bit more in terms of details for us this afternoon. We're going to go straight to it right now this afternoon. And quickly, in relation to what the statement says, that President John Dramani Mahama has, in accordance with Article 78, submitted the names of the following to Parliament through the Speaker for prior approval as Ministers of State. 2 ministries which we're going to be getting replacement for, as well as a reshuffle of some sort. Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology, Dr. Zaneto Agyemang-Rawlings is headed for that ministry as its substantive minister. That's the latest from the government. She will undergo parliamentary vetting, and so will the majority leader in Parliament as well, Mahama Ayariga, because he is to take over the place of Ahmed Ibrahim as a Minister for Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs. Mahama Ayariga, who is the majority leader of Parliament presently, is headed for the Ministry of Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs. He as well will undergo parliamentary vetting pretty shortly. Then the President has reassigned the following ministers to the corresponding portfolios. Ministry of Defense, we're getting a substantive minister after a year. Honorable Kenneth Gilbert Ojay, he was a deputy minister for Defense under President Mahama's first term. He is returning to the portfolio as a substantive minister. And then Ahmed Ibrahim, who has been the Minister for Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs, is going straight for Honorable Kenneth Gilbert Ojay's position now as the Minister for Works, Housing and Water Resources. And the both of them, who are being reassigned, will not go through a parliamentary vetting because they've already been vetted for a ministerial position. And so they will, I'm expecting with immediate effect as well, assume those specific roles and begin acting in accordance. But with the first 2, Dr. Zaneto Agyemang-Rawlings, who's a member of Parliament for Korle Klottey, will undergo parliamentary vetting when the House does return somewhere September thereabout. Then, the majority leader, when the House returns, there will be an election of some sort for him, for his replacement, right? But he will as well undergo a parliamentary vetting and now become a minister for local government, chieftaincy and religious affairs. By that alone, there is a vacancy in the majority leader position in Parliament. And so the expectation is that the NDC caucus, both in Parliament and then national leadership, will begin working around to find a replacement for who becomes majority leader in Parliament, right? That's the Boku Central MP, Mahama Ayariga, who is now headed towards the Ministry of Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs. That's the latest from the quarters of government. 1 year, right? And just this morning, there were conversations as well in relation to possible replacement a year on, amongst other things. Well, the consensus of the conversation would suggest that the president waited for a year with respect or paying respect to the gallant aides, particularly the 2 ministers of state, Dr. Edward Omane-Boamah, who was the Minister for Defense, and as well as Prof, right? Dr. Murtala Mohammed, who was the Minister for Environment, Science and Technology. They have replacements now, and that is what you're seeing on your screens as well. Dr. Zaneto Ajiman-Rawlings, who, by the way, Justice Atuguba was speaking at a parliamentary event about some weeks ago and was asking questions as to why she had not been given a ministerial position, as to whether or not that made any influence the conversations. You and I both cannot tell. But there were comments in that regard just a few weeks ago, a former justice of the Supreme Court asking questions as to why she had not been made a minister just as yet under this administration. Well, she is a minister now, pending the approval of Parliament. Well, you could work the math, right? With an overwhelming majority, it presupposes she is almost in the ministry and will be the next minister for Environment, Science and Technology. Then as well will be Mahama Ayariga, right? That's him. He is the present majority leader in Parliament. In fact, at the last time of check, when the House was going on recess, he wasn't present in the House. It was the Deputy Majority Leader, Ricketts, who gave that closing address on his behalf, and he is now headed towards the Ministry for Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs. This is currently the Minister for Works and Housing, right? It's Water, Sanitation, Resources, Honorable Kenneth Gilbert J. He is headed towards the Ministry of Defense. He was Deputy Minister of Defense under President Mahama's first term. He was a Deputy Minister, and in fact, in the lead up to the conversations, there were suggestions that he would have gone back to that ministry, but he got a substantive role under the administration as the Minister for Works and Housing and Water Resources. He is returning to the Defense Ministry, this time not as a deputy, but as a substantive minister, a year on, and will take up the position. And I mentioned, remember, that because he underwent vetting already to become the Minister for Works and Housing, the expectation is that he will assume office straight and will not need parliamentary approval as well. And so, with immediate effect, really, he is the Minister for Defense. Then, Ahmed Ibrahim, who was the Minister for Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs, now will replace or will take over the slot as Minister for Works, Housing and Water Resources. He's replacing Kenneth Gilbert J as the Minister for Works, Housing and Water Resources as well. That's the breaking news that's just coming through right now for you here on News Central. A ministerial reshuffle as well as fresh appointments to positions by the Mahama administration, the Minister for Government Communication, Felix Kwatiofosu. That statement just came out a short while ago, and we have the details for you right now here on News Central.